Today I am going to tackle negative exponents. In the lesson of negative exponents, we talk about negative exponents as well as zero exponents. A couple of ideas or laws of properties of exponents. The first one is that if you have some x to a negative exponent, that can be written as 1 over x to the positive exponent. The same is true if I have 1 over x to a negative exponent. I can make it positive by moving it into the numerator and changing the sign. So those are two properties. Another property is the zero exponent. Anything to the 0 power is the number 1. I could take 1,000,000 to 1, or 1,000,000 to the 0 is 1. X to the 0 is 1. Y to the 0 is 1. Negative 4,000 to the 0 is 1. Anything. And it takes just the piece that has the 0 becomes a 1. For instance, if I have 2x to the 0, in this case, the 0 only applies to the x. So that is the same thing as 2 times 1, which is 2. Now, if I put parentheses around it and said 2x quantity to 0, that entire piece would be 1. When I'm talking about negative exponents, we must remember that that does nothing to make the sign of the value I'm talking about negative. For instance, if I have 2 to the negative third, that doesn't become negative 8. This is saying 1 over 2 to the third, which is the same thing as 1 over 8. When I'm tackling a problem like the one that's listed here, the first thing that I want to think about is making my exponents positive. Now, the 8 doesn't move. It's already positive, doesn't have any exponents that are negative, but the y to the negative third, the x to the negative ninth, and the x to the negative 2 are all negative exponents, which means they need to relocate. The 2 in the numerator are going to go into the denominator, and the 1 in the denominator is going to go into the numerator. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to write the pieces that we didn't touch. The 8 didn't have a negative exponent. The 2 didn't have a negative exponent, and y to the 6 did not have a negative exponent. Now I'm going to move the pieces that were negative. X to the negative 2 relocates up to the numerator and becomes x now to the positive 2. So I've handled this piece here. Y to the negative 3 drops down to the denominator to become positive. That is y to the third in the denominator. X to the negative ninth drops down into the denominator, become x to the positive ninth. So I've handled all of the things that needed to be relocated, and I've handled all of the things that were stationary. And now I can simplify. I have 8 over 2, which can reduce by 2 to be 4 over 1. I'll use 1 as a placeholder. In the denominator, I have y to the 6th and y to the 3rd. These two together, I can use the multiplication property to say y to the 6th plus 3, which is y to the 9th. With the x's, I'm going to use the subtraction rule, or the quotient rule, where I have x to the 2 minus 9. That leaves me with x to the negative 7th in the numerator. But whenever I write my answer, I want to make sure that any negative exponents go into the denominator, or not go into the denominator, but become positive. So I'm going to change this. I'm going to relocate that down here. So my final answer would be 4 over 1 x to the 7th, y to the 9th. Okay. I could give you a fraction, let's say 2 over 3, to a negative exponent, and I can use one of two ideas to get a final answer. One is that I could distribute the negative 2n to each the 2 and the 3. Or the other is that I can use the reciprocal idea, relocating the 3 and the 2 and making that exponent positive. Because if I have 2 to the negative 2 over 3 to the negative 2, that means that the 3 is going to go into the numerator to become positive, and 2 is going to go into the denominator to become positive, which is the same thing as 3 over 2 squared. Okay. The big picture idea is that numerators and denominators are just locations for our negative exponents. So if we have a negative exponent up top, it goes down to the denominator. If I have a negative exponent in the denominator, it comes up to the numerator. And only the pieces that are negative move. Anything else stays where it is. Thanks for watching.